I'm one of the admissions coun I'm one of the admissions counselors at UMD. I'm currently the point of contact for Montgomery County Public Schools. I don't know if you guys heard earlier. I don't know if I will remain the point of contact for next fall because they were changing some stuff up in our office, so it may not be me as a point of contact going forward. However, I'm here today to give you the presentation about UMD as a whole and talk specifically about the admissions process and requirements and all of that lovely stuff. So I'm going to share my screen so that way we can get started. So some of you guys may, if you have been to campus before, this PowerPoint looks very familiar. It is basically our info session that we give on campus. I did add a couple of slides though to make it specific for this presentation. I'm going to give a broad overview of the school itself because we do visit all of the Maryland public schools in the fall. So you will get a presentation whether from me or another one of my colleagues all about UMD in the fall. This will more or less highlight the admissions requirements and a little bit less so about the school itself as a whole. Um, but University of Maryland is the state of Maryland's flagship public school. Um, Montgomery County is not that far away from UMD, anywhere from 20 minutes to about 45 to an hour, depending on traffic. UMD is the biggest school in the state of Maryland at 30,000 undergraduate students. We have students from 49 states, and over 4,700 international students on campus as well. UMT has gotten more popular in recent years. That's largely in part to our rankings. Um, we are among one. We are among the top public schools for best value among public colleges. We have among the highest graduation rates among public schools. Um, we were ranked number 19 by US News and World Report for best public colleges. We have some amazing programs on campus. Um, you do have a great flagship public school here in the state of Maryland with UMD. As far as academics go, we have 100 different majors across 12 schools and colleges. Even though we are a big public school of 30,000, we do have an 18 to 1 student to faculty ratio. So you can still make those connections with your professors or teaching assistants or graduate assistants on campus, whether during office hours or even smaller discussion-based groups. If you don't know what you want to study um, at UMD, you can apply undecided. That is one of our more popular majors is our undecided major, letters and sciences. And you have until your sophomore year to actually declare a major on campus. All of these schools and colleges also have advisors available for students to meet with to go over class schedules, classes to take, and like graduation time and all of that as well. I do want to highlight some of our more popular majors at UMD. These majors on the screen are among the more popular ones on campus, and these are known as limited enrollment programs or LEPs. So basically, if you're interested in one of these majors that are listed, these majors undergo a two-step review process. Um, so when you apply to UMD, you indicate your major on the application itself. UMD is major blind in our admissions review, which means when I'm looking at an application for admission to the school, I don't care what major you're applying to us with. That has nothing to do with your admission decision to UMD as a whole. If you indicated one of these majors and you get admitted to UMD, we'll then pass your application onto that particular program for a second review for placement into that program as a freshman student. So for example, if you're interested in majoring in engineering, um, and you get admitted to UMD, we'll pass your same application onto the School of Engineering for a second review done by engineering. and they will determine placement into their program as a freshman. So you may be admitted to UMD, but you may not be directly admitted into your program of study if it's one of these particular programs, because they are, like I said, these are pretty popular on campus. If it's the case where you are admitted to UMD, but not your preferred major, we will place you in our undecided major, letters and sciences, and you can work your way into one of these programs as a current student. I will say there were two exceptions to that working your way into it as a current student. Computer science and business are the two majors that are competitive at both the freshman application level as well as at the current student level, particularly computer science. Computer science is the most competitive program that we have at UMD. And just for some context, they saw about 11,000 applications for computer science, and they had room for only 600 students for freshmen. So it is highly, highly selective for computer science in particular. So if you don't get into computer science as a freshman, it is highly advised that you change your major, just because there is no space available, fortunately, for even for current students to get into the program. Business is also competitive. However, there is still a pathway to get into the business program as a current student, though. If your major is not listed on the screen, it means it's not a competitive major. And if you are admitted to UMD, you would be directly admitted into that program of study. So, for example, if you're interested in journalism, journalism is not a competitive major, which means you're directly admitted into the journalism program if you get admitted to UMD. It's only these majors on the screen that undergo that second review. Now, let's focus on the admissions piece of this, because that's pretty important throughout this process. So UMD is on the Common Application. The Common App is a great application. It's a universal application. Over 900 schools are on the Common Application. So chances are the schools that you're applying to also use that Common Application as well. You submit one application to all the schools you're applying to. Makes it super easy as well for your high school counselors and teachers and whatnot to upload your recommendation letters, your transcripts, etc. Because Common App does work very nicely with like Naviance, for example. The Common Application will open up in August. UMD's portion of the Common Application typically opens up in late August. But you can start working on like the personal information section, your essay, activity section, all that in August, and then the UMD portion of the application will open up in late August. And I do recommend, as soon as the application does open, that you start working on the application. I was saying earlier how summer is just flying by. And before you know it, the Common App will be open, and before you know it, you'll be back in school, and then after that, you'll have our deadline for applying. So it'll sneak up on you. So I recommend, starting working on the Common App once it does open up, because before you know it, you'll be back in school, and before you know it, the deadlines will be here. So for freshmen applying to UMD, we have two major deadlines for applying to the University of Maryland. We have early action and we have regular decision. Both of these deadlines are non-binding, which means you have the flexibility of choosing what school you want to attend should you get admitted to UMD. The one deadline I recommend applying to UMD with, though, is early action. So early action is our priority consideration deadline. And what early action means is students who apply early action are put in the running for our merit scholarships. They're put in the running for our special programs like the Honors College and some of our other like living learning programs on campus. And this is our best consideration deadline for admission as well. And just for some context, for our fall class, typically about 85 to 90% of the class comes from early action. Only 10% of our fall class comes from regular decision. So regular decision is highly, 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 highly competitive. It is still super competitive to get into UMD as a whole. However, early action will give you the best opportunities on our campus. And what the deadlines mean is that we need all of the application materials and the application itself in our office by that deadline dates. If you send anything in after November 1st, you are no longer early action and are now regular decision. So it is super imperative that you are working on the application and getting everything into us on time. Because again, regular decision has about a 10% acceptance rate. So early action, if you get nothing out of this presentation, remember early action. And what do we need as far as completing your application? We need to submit a common application. We need the application fee. We need at least 2 recommendation letters. One has to come from your high school counselor, and one has to come from your teacher. So we need at least those 2 recommenders for the application itself. For the teacher recommendation letter, it could be from anybody. So if, for example, you're attending Montgomery College for dual enrollment early college coursework, you can use a Montgomery College professor. So it could be any teacher, whether from your high school or whether from Montgomery College, for example. But we need a teacher recommendation letter and a high school counselor recommendation letter. We also need official transcripts from all schools attended. This was really important. This came up a lot for this fall 2024 cycle, where students would only have attended multiple high schools, for example, particularly high schools overseas, outside of the US. And students were put on hold because we don't have transcripts from all schools attended. So we need official high school transcripts from every school that you attended. If you went to a school outside of the US, we will need that transcript. If that transcript is not in English, we will need a certified English translation of that transcript. So it is really important that you are sending in all transcripts from all high schools attended. If you have taken dual enrollment classes or college coursework in general, we will also need college transcripts from those schools that you attended as well. This is particularly the case if those college coursework is not listed on your Montgomery County High School transcripts. So if you took those college coursework and it's not listed on your high school transcripts, we will need that college transcript. Your application will be considered incomplete without that college transcript. And again, this only applies if you have taken college coursework. UMD is test optional for fall 2025. This is currently the final year that we're test optional. So if you're a sophomore in this room right now, I unfortunately don't have an answer regarding our test optional policy for fall 2026 and beyond. But if you're a high school junior about to be a senior, you can apply test optional. Please make sure as you go through the application that you're reading the questions carefully. So if you want to apply test optional, please make sure that you answer yes, I do not plan to submit my test scores, because it's really important, because once the application is submitted, we cannot change anything in the application. So if you meant to apply test optional but accidentally answered I want to submit test scores, well, now you need to submit test scores or your application will be incomplete. So it's really important before submitting the application to read through it one more time before submitting it, because again, it is a final application as soon as you press that submit button, and we cannot change anything in the application once it is submitted. I also want to mention that you may also need an English proficiency exam. This was also another reason why students got put on hold, was because they needed an English proficiency exam. So if English is not your first language, and if you have taken English as a second language courses while in high school, we will need an English proficiency exam with the application. I'll have the link to the requirements for the English proficiency exam on the next slide. But just keep that in mind as well. That did hold up a couple of students this year.
Whenever how to get it to Maryland.
That did hold up a
Please
couple of
touch
students this year
something.
just because the English proficiency exam does not show up on the application checklist. But that is a requirement if a student does need that English proficiency exam, English is not their first language, and have taken ESOL classes in high school. Once the application is submitted, you will have access to our TERPS application portal. This typically comes out about 24 to 48 hours after submitting the application to us. It is super important that you are checking this application portal. And also making note that it can take up to 7 to 10 business days for items to appear in that TERPS application portal. So if you apply October 31st and you get your TERPS application portal email and you see that we have nothing, just know that it can take some time, particularly right before a deadline date, for items to appear in that TERPS application portal. So that's why I also recommend not waiting until the last minute to apply to UMD, because I guarantee you're going to apply October 31st, log into that portal, see nothing, and freak out. So please make sure that you are also working with your high school counselors and your teachers to make sure that you have all your forms in, like your brag sheets, your transcript requests, to make sure all that stuff is in, so that your high school counselors and teachers are able to upload your recommendation letters and transcripts and whatnot in a timely manner as well. I also want to make note that the application portal is only as good as the information that you report to us. So there is this language in the application portal that states your application will be considered complete based on the information provided. This is subject to change based on a full review of the application materials that you've submitted. In order for your application to be considered complete, all of your application materials must have been received. And then we may reach out to you for more information. However, I want to note that it is the student's responsibility to ensure that all application materials are received to our office by the deadline dates. We do not reach out to individual students regarding their application status. We received 60,000 applications for fall of 2024. We don't have the bandwidth to be notifying students on an individual basis that their application is incomplete. So it is up to you as a student to be proactive and check your application portal. Reach out to us if you see something is missing, or if you just want to reach out to us in general to see if everything is in on time, you're certainly welcome to do so. However, do not expect us to tell you about your application status. It is up to you as a student to be that proactive student and make sure that everything is in on time. I also included some links here with QR codes, so you're welcome to scan the QR code, but these are also the links. The first link is our freshman admissions requirements that has a checklist of everything that's needed for the application process. So what I had gone over on the previous slide is listed on this website here. I recommend checking this website and reading it thoroughly. This website is available 24/7. So when I have students email saying, oh, I didn't know this was a requirement, I'm going to refer you to this website because this is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And everything that you need to know about applying to UMD is on our freshman admissions website. So there should be no excuses about, oh, I didn't know this was a requirement. Oh, I didn't know this needed to be submitted by this date. I'm going to refer you to this link, and there are no exceptions. The deadlines are deadlines. And then the second link I have provided is our English proficiency requirements. So please use this link to determine whether or not you need an English proficiency exam. We do accept Duolingo, TOEFL, and IELTS for our English proficiency exams. Um, I recommend if you do need an English proficiency exam that you take the Duolingo exam. It is the quickest. It'll get to us in about a day or two. So if you need an English proficiency exam, take the Duolingo exam. Now, as far as our review process goes, UMD is holistic in our application review, which means we look at everything that you provide to us in your application. So there's 24 things we look at, or 23 if you apply test optional. You will note that even though we do look at everything in the application, you will see a good amount of these factors are academic in nature. And that is because even though you're holistic, UMD is still focused on an academic review at heart. So what that means is that when we're looking at an application, we're looking for a student who has taken the most rigorous classes available to them at their high school, whether that be honors, AP, IB, dual enrollment, whatever your particular high school offers for rigor. We're also looking for students who have earned mainly A's, maybe a B here and there, but the academic profile is typically mainly A's in rigorous courses. Two things that we do not consider in our admissions review: legacy or alumni status. So we do not consider that your parent, guardian, sibling goes to UMD or graduated from UMD. That is not a factor that we consider in our admissions review. That will have nothing to do with your admission decision to UMD. We also do not consider demonstrated interest. Demonstrated interest is visiting campus, emailing us to say how excited you are about attending UMD, writing a letter to us saying how much you want to attend UMD and want to be put off the wait list. We do not consider demonstrated interest as part of our admissions review. So you reaching out to us saying how excited you are or that you visited campus will not have any bearing on an admission decision, nor will it impact your ability to get off the wait list if you were put on the wait list for admission, nor will it help an appeal if you got denied from UMD. So just keep that in mind as well. So I do want to highlight where UMD has been for the past couple of years as far as applications, admitted students, and number of enrolled students as well. I'm going to move my little bar here because I'm pretty sure that blocks your view of on the bottom of the screen. So I've highlighted the past 3 years in these red boxes. So in 2020, UMD switched to the common application. In 2020, COVID happened as well, and UMD became a test optional school because students obviously did not have access to taking the SAT or ACT because everything was shut down. In 2020, that's when our application numbers almost doubled, and they have not gone down since. So because we have seen more applications and our typical fall class size, it hovers around 4,700 students, that means UMD has become a more competitive school for admission. You will also see the number of enrolled students. So I say our class, we typically aim for a class of 4,700 freshmen. As you can see, we were pretty well above 4,700 freshmen, which also means if we over enroll, it also means we have less space available for the next application cycles. So again, UMD is not a safety school. I've heard that many times. I've heard parents say to me, "Oh, UMD used to be a safety school." Well, that's not the reality anymore. our application numbers have kept increasing while our class sizes have not increased. The bulk of our applications also come from Montgomery County alone as well. Just keep that in mind. And also, as you can see, our acceptance rate hovers around, has actually gone down. And for fall 2024, it has gone down as well. We don't have final numbers. They have not been published. However, that acceptance rate has gone down as of right now. I also want to make notes of our 50% ranges for SAT and ACT scores. Notice how these have gone up as well. So when you consider whether or not you want to submit test scores, keep in mind these ranges, because submitting a test score that falls below these ranges can definitely have a negative impact on your application. About 50% of our students submit test scores, 50% of our students don't submit test scores, and roughly that same percentage gets submitted, 50% test optional, 50% non-test optional. Please keep in mind, if you are considering whether or not you want to submit test scores, again, keeping in mind these ranges, and also keeping in mind that if you do not apply test optional and choose to have your test scores included, that these test scores will be used in our entire admissions process, from admissions review to LEP major review to merit scholarship review to honors college review to other living learning program review. So if you are submitting test scores and you do not apply test optional, please keep in mind that you are saying to us that you want these test scores used in the entire process. So as far as financial aid goes, that is done through the FAFSA. The FAFSA was all new for fall 2024, and a lot of dates got pushed back because there were some delays in getting the FAFSA application rolled out. For fall 2025 and beyond, it is my hope that the application will open up when it typically opens up in October, which will make our priority consideration deadline for need-based aid January 1st. If anything were to change and FAFSA got delayed again for the next school year, we will obviously keep you posted. But typically it opens up in October, and our priority deadline is January 1st. For merit-based scholarships, you have to apply early action and have a complete early action application to be considered for any of our merit-based scholarships. There was no separate application necessary for that merit-based scholarship review, but you have to apply early action and have a complete application. Unlike our admissions review, which does take into consideration your essay, your activities and whatnot, the merit scholarship review is not holistic. It is a purely academic review for merit scholarships. So looking at the grades in the classes you've taken in high school, the rigor of your coursework taken in high school, and if you choose to submit SAT or ACT scores, those test scores. Merit scholarship review does not take into consideration your essay or your recommendation letters or your activities. It's only an academic review. And merit scholarship review is also competitive. We are a state school. We are funded primarily by the state of Maryland and the federal government, which means we don't have as much scholarship money to award as, say, a private school does. Our merit scholarships go out by March 1st. We only notify students who got a merit-based scholarship on March 1st. So if you did not get an email from us saying that you got a merit-based scholarship, it unfortunately means that you did not get a merit-based scholarship. We do not offer an appeal process for any of our merit-based scholarships. So if you don't get an email from us by March 1st, unfortunately, we cannot provide any merit-based scholarships to you. And like I said, there is no appeal process for those scholarships. The last thing I want to quickly highlight is our transfer process. So transfer, oh, sorry, did not mean to skip that slide. So transferring is definitely a great option. If you get denied from UMD, or you know that you want to go to community college after graduating from high school. So for transferring, particularly in our early action deadline, which again, early action is our best consideration deadline, and those dates are on the screen here. Early action is our best consideration deadline. The typical profile of an admitted student as a transfer admitted to UMD as a early action transfer student is having at least 12 or more college credits completed after graduation from high school, completion of English and math at the college level, and at least a 3.0 GPA within all your college coursework. So early action for transfers is our best deadline. And as you can see, the profile of an admitted early action transfer student is not nearly as competitive or difficult as someone coming in as a freshman student. So I would definitely recommend looking into the transfer pathway because this is still a great option for students to transfer into UMD, whether from a four-year school or Montgomery College, for example. So I know I went over a lot of stuff in a half and 35 minutes. I see there's also a lot of questions in the chat, so let me scroll to the top and see if there's anything that I need to address here in the chat first, and then we will take questions as a group as well.
There are a lot
Information
of questions
science
about,
is not an LEP.
there are a lot of questions about transfer also, so just.
Oh, I love transfers. I work primarily with transfer students, so I would be happy to also answer those transfer questions because I think transferring is a great viable option for a lot of students in Montgomery County. UMD does not have supplemental essays. We just have short answer questions. The short answer questions are meant to be just for us to get to know you. Like one of the questions is, what did you do last Thursday? Or if I can travel anywhere, I would want to go to blank place. Like they're fun questions. They're not supplemental essays. You can just write a couple of sentences for those questions.
Colin, so people can write a few sentences. That's a question I get all the time. One person at UMD said, no, finish the sentence, one sentence. Then some people say it can be longer. Like the character count is pretty long for those questions. So you actually do want
the character count is 250 per short answer, 250 characters per short answer question. So that it's, I always leave it up to students. If the students just want to fill in the blanks and answer the question that way, they can. If the student wants to just write a typical short answer question type response, they can. I'm just looking for a student, to answer the question. To be perfectly honest, I'm not looking for, a full-on essay because quite frankly, there is not enough room for a student to write a full-on essay in their short answer questions. It is purely just for a student to write a few sentences, and whatever format they want to write those short answer questions in is totally up to them. UMD's business program is pretty competitive. Again, we're major blind in our admissions review. However, the business school is among the more popular majors at UMD. So the acceptance rate for the business school itself for placement into it is pretty competitive. So for any of our LEP majors like business, engineering, computer science, you just indicate the major on the application itself. That's how you apply and indicate that you wish to go through that LEP review process. There's no second application required as a freshman student for that process. You just need to indicate on the application that that's your major, and you'll automatically go through that review process. Yes, recommendation, everything has to be in by November 1st. The application, transcripts, recommendation letters, test scores if you do not apply test optional, all that has to be in through our office by November 1st. This is also important because I know a lot of our students take the October SAT or ACT, and that's going to get really close. So I cannot guarantee that anything received after November 1st is going to be considered in the early action review. So if you're taking the October SAT and applying to UMD, I recommend applying test optional. I don't want anyone in here to be pushed to regular decision because something was not into our office on time. We do accept additional recommendation letters from other people as well. So like if you have a supervisor that can write a recommendation letter, you can submit that as well. But we need the teacher and counselor recommendation letters to complete the application. But any additional ones can be submitted after that as well. Yes, everything like if you attend the multiple high schools, and international transcripts have to be submitted by that November 1st deadline as well. That is super important. For our admissions review, we consider grades 9, 10, and 11. So we do not consider your senior year grades as part of our admissions review. We only look at grades 9, 10, and 11. We'll look at your classes you're taking senior year, but they will not be used in our admissions process. So please do not send us your first quarter grades or first semester grades. We will not consider those grades. We only consider grades 9, 10, and 11. Most of our LEP majors are also minors, and a minor does not require a student to go through the competitive review process. So for example, business, computer science are offered as minors on campus, and any student can do those particular minors with any of our majors. You just take the required prerequisite classes for those particular programs. That's part of the minor on campus. Let's see if yes, if your college coursework is already on your MCPS high school transcript, you do not need to send us your MC transcript. If this is also your first semester at MC, if this upcoming fall will also be your first semester at MC, we also don't need a college transcript because obviously there's going to be no grades available for those classes. Just listing the classes on your application will be sufficient enough. And just making sure that it is noted that this is your first semester at MC as well. It has to be an official transcript from MC. We do not accept unofficial transcripts. Your high school counselors cannot send an MC transcript to us. You have to make the request directly from Montgomery College itself in order for that transcript to be sent to us. If your high school combines classes and grades from other high schools that you attended, we need transcripts from all schools attended. This is particularly true for overseas schools. We need a transcript from that international school. Because I know I've had students put on hold for having for missing a transcript from a previous school that was in the US even. So please make sure that you are submitting transcripts from all schools attended, even if MCPS has listed those grades on your transcripts. Do we need the RIT transcript if you earn credits through the project Lead the Way? If it's not listed on your high school transcripts and clearly indicated as a college course, then yes, we will need the RIT transcripts. Also keep in mind that if you are thinking about transferring to UMD, we'll need all college transcripts anyway. So it's always good to get into the habit of submitting your college transcripts. Because we will need those college transcripts if you think about transferring to UMD anyway. Will test optional affect your admission rate? No, it does not. Thank you, Sarah, for answering that question. So what test score range do you think about submitting? So I had mentioned the 50% ranges that we typically saw. It was 1390 to 1510. So keep those 32 to 35 for the ACT. So keep those ranges in mind when you think about your test scores and whether or not you want to apply test optional to UMD or not. Like I said, submitting test scores that fall below that can definitely have a negative impact on your application. What if elementary, anything outside of high school doesn't matter. If you haven't taken ESOL classes in high school, if you're enrolled in English all 4 years of high school, if English is your first language, even if English is not your first language, but you were enrolled in English classes all 4 years, that's fine. Again, UMD still has 60,000 applications. It is highly competitive for admission. Like I said, Montgomery County is Montgomery County is the #1 county in the state of Maryland that we see applications from. So it may seem like we have rejected a lot of Montgomery County students. It's just because the bulk of our applications come from Montgomery County alone. And like I said, it is just competitive. We are looking for mainly A's and a B possibly in those rigorous coursework. Do you need middle school transcript? So for foreign language, we need 2 years of a foreign language taken while in high school. Typically middle school does not satisfy that requirement. However, we will see that on your high school transcript, but typically middle school courses does not satisfy high school because that's not taken while in high school. You do need to take a math placement test as part of the orientation process at UMD. There is no English assessment though. It's just a math placement test. If you get rejected from computer science and you want to switch majors, absolutely, and they encourage you to do so. There are some great alternative majors to computer science, like computer engineering, information systems, information science. You can do the computer science minor. You can also do most media design. So there's several alternate majors to computer science that would love to have you as well. The application opens up in late August for the fall 2025 cycle. We do not share slide decks with anyone. But I know this recording will be shared with all the CCICs and MCPS. Does state residency impact my admission? No, it does not. We do not have a quota for in-state and out-of-state. Our acceptance rate is the same for in-state and out-of-state students. I just answered that other question. We're test optional through 2025. I don't have an answer for going forward yet. Come back next year for going forward for any sophomores in here. But we are test optional for the rising seniors in here right now. How do you apply for the Honors College? You just need to submit an early action application, and your application will be considered as part of our admissions review for consideration into the Honors College. You don't apply for the Honors College. You have to be invited into the Honors College as part of our admissions review. The acceptance, it was on my slide. It was on the slide as for the acceptance rate. Again, there was no difference in in-state and out-of-state acceptance rate. As of right now, the fall 2024 acceptance rate hovering in the 30s. I don't give an average GPA because GPAs can vary so widely between schools. I will just say that it's mainly A's in the most rigorous coursework available in your high school. How you double major, you can add a second major your second semester of your freshman year of college. So you can't do a double major on the application. You add that second major as a current student, second semester of your freshman year. What are the benefits of the pathway for transfer students? Transferring is not nearly as competitive as it is on applying as a freshman student. That is definitely the main benefit. So early action for transfers is our best consideration deadline. We were pretty generous in our early action transfer review for this fall cycle. So it's just not as competitive. That's the main advantage. And it's also a cost savings for you guys. If you attend like Montgomery College, you are saving on tuition because obviously Montgomery College is a community college, which is cheaper than going to a 4-year school. So that is definitely a great pathway going to that community college. Whether you want to stay for an associate's degree, stay for a year, you can definitely save money. And again, applying early action for transfers will definitely put you in a good position because we are more generous in our early action transfer review than we are even in our freshman review. I don't have acceptance rate for the business program because it just varies on the number of applications, and the business school does that review themselves. So we don't do that in our admissions office. what are the components? So the for LEPs, the particular majors are looking at the same application that we look at in admissions, just with their lens on it. So computer science, for example, may look at the your STEM courses, the things you're involved in, whether it's STEM related, maybe you have an internship, maybe you've done research, etc. Maybe your essay talks about computer science and all that. So the majors themselves look at the application for LEP placement in their lens. We're looking at it for this admissions lens, but for the competitive review programs, we're looking at it within their context. If you're not selected for comp sci, yeah, it's computer engineering, info sci, info systems, immersive media design, or the alternate majors. For LEP placement for transfer students, that's a more cut and dry process. For transfers, we're looking to see whether you've completed the required classes for those particular majors on campus. So all of the LEP programs have gateway classes. So for transfer students, they're more or less looking to see if you completed those gateway classes. The grades in those classes have been met as well. For computer science, they're looking at everything though. So just keep that in mind. No, we're major blind. Yep, so if engineering could be any major, like mechanical, chemical engineering, electrical engineering, fire protection engineering, it all falls under the same LEP umbrella. So even for business as well, accounting, finance, management, marketing, etc., falls under that LEP business review. We do not require test scores for early action. We are like I said, we are test optional. We do have merit scholarships for transfer students, but you have to apply for early action to be considered for those merit-based scholarships, and we only offer them for fall admission. So you cannot be a spring student applying for transfers for merit scholarships. You have to apply for fall early action. And also there's another thing for transfer merit scholarships. It is there's also a need-based consideration factor for that transfer review. So you need to have a FAFSA submitted as well to be considered for our transfer merit scholarships on campus.
Colin, can you talk about a freshman merit? I get a ton of information on that. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of it, but could you give us any more specific information about maybe percentage and levels?
Yeah, so the merit scholarship ranges anywhere from $1,500 for 1 year up to a full ride via our Banneker Key scholarship. All the amounts are posted on our website as far as like the types of scholarships we have and how much the awards are. For the review, we do the review and admissions for those merit-based scholarships. Like I said, it is a purely academic review for the scholarships, so it is not looking at your activities or your essay or anything like that. It is purely looking at your grades in the classes you've taken. And it is highly competitive. Typically, the top 15%, maybe 20% of students admitted early action might receive a merit-based scholarship from us. And for the profile, it's usually students have taken the most rigorous classes or at or near the top of their class, and it earns, like I said, basically all A's. And if submitting test scores, they typically fell above our 75th percentile range. So that's typically the profile. However, like I said, it is extremely competitive review. But yeah, it's typically the top 15% of the class might receive a merit-based scholarship.
What percent of
it is
Banneker Key are in-state?
I'm sorry.
What percentage of Banneker Key are in-state? Do you know?
I don't have the exact percentage, but it's a good portion of our students or offer BK from from in-state.
And that's only merit? Banneker is based on merit only?
Correct. So Banneker Key also looks at so you have to Banneker Key also you have to be admitted to the honors college to be considered for the Banneker Key scholarship.
Right.
Not everyone is considered for the BK scholarship. You have to be admitted to the honors college to be put in the running for the Banneker Key scholarship. Let's see. Anyone who's taking dual enrollment classes will be coming as a freshman. Do not apply as a transfer student. Please apply as a freshman. You're only considered a transfer student if you have graduated from high school and have taken college coursework after graduation from high school. So if you're taking early college classes right now, please apply as a freshman students. It's up to you whether or not you want to have additional recommendation letters. Like I said, we need the required two. And as I said, academics are still weighted pretty heavily in the admissions review. Well, of course, take a look at everything in the application. I usually recommend submitting no more than 3, to be perfectly honest. But you're allowed to submit, as more than that if you wanted to. Letters and sciences as our undecided major. So if you don't know what major you want to go into, or if you didn't get into your preferred LEP major, this is where we place our students. We look at, again, your high school grades from grades 9, 10, and 11. MCPS breaks it down by semester. If you deny from UMD, can you transfer after your first semester at a different college? You can. Keeping in mind, I usually recommend students transferring in the fall, like waiting a year after getting denied from UMD. Especially if you're just because if this is your first semester of college coursework, and you haven't you need to have at least 12 credits to be considered a transfer student. So if you're in progress of 12 credits in your first semester, coming right out of high school, we won't be able to decision your application until January. So it doesn't give you as much time to actually make arrangements to come to UMD. So that's why I usually tell students, transfer a year after a year. So if you got denied for fall 2024, look to apply for fall 2025, for example. If you were waitlisted if you got denied and put on the wait list, those typically go out in July. I will also say we have not taken students off the wait list in a number of years. So if you are put on the wait list, I would recommend making alternate plans. I don't have percentages for in-state for percentage of students in state for merit scholarships. It's typically again the top 15-20% of students who might receive a merit-based scholarship who get admitted early action. You can use an MC professor for your teacher recommendation letter. That is fine. You need to submit your college transcript. It does not matter if you don't want to earn those credits. That is not part of your academic record. That's a big sticking point for me. I actually don't like that question. I always get the question of, can I just disregard these credits? No, they are now forever part of you, and you need to submit that college transcript wherever you decide to attend. So no, credits do not go away. They are now part of you forever.
Colin, excuse me 1 second. Let's just take 1 or 2 more questions. It's almost 12 o'clock. And then anybody on this call, if you have follow-up questions for Colin, please direct them to your CCIC. And if they don't know the answer, they will get it directly from Colin. So just let's say 2 more questions and then I'm going to turn this off.
Let's see. Dual enrollment classes are reviewed as rigorous classes, and we would want to see A's in those classes as well. Much like if you were taking a high school class. We do use weighted GPA. However, I always tell students a GPA is just a number. When I'm doing an application review, I'm looking at each individual class and each individual grade in those classes. I'm not focused on a number because a GPA, like I said, is just a number. I'm looking at each individual class and each individual grade in that class for my admissions review. For our purposes, we enter the weighted GPA in our system, but it's more or less looking at each class and each grade as part of our review. Any other pressing questions that you want me to answer before we hop off?
I think we are good. I am going to go ahead and stop the recording. Thank you so much. This has been invaluable. We really appreciate your time and thank you everybody for joining today.
Language questions? The credits for foreign language?
I can answer